Arms companies here in Scotland, which is what's happening from the Scottish Government right now. We want an end to that. We want a Scotland that pursues peace and international solidarity, not war, slaughter and profits for the arms companies. Having their profits subsidised by the Scottish Government. The Scottish Socialist Party is demanding an end to the subsidies out of taxpayers' money in Scotland to arms companies, which has been supplied by the Scottish Government right now, and for an end to arms sales by the British Government to the war on Gaza, demand an end to profiteering out of war by the arms companies and the way in which the Scottish Government is subsidising those same arms companies right now. And sign the petition. Palestinian people for profit for the arms companies and demand the Scottish Government's.
Get yourself on the BBC.
And that'll be lucky. Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Palestine! Palestine! Palestine!
somebody who has been a mainstay, a veteran of Palestine solidarity over the years. It's been my pleasure to work alongside on campaigns and events with Mick Napier from the Scottish Palestine Solidarity Campaign. Put your hands together for Mick Napier.
Friends, thanks for the opportunity to address you today. These are dark times. The British government is funneling arms to Israel for a genocide. 2 days after the Israelis slaughtered aid workers, David Cameron signed off on fresh arms for the genocidal state. The official figure is 36,000 dead, mainly women and children, 15,000 children, but the number is much higher because there's thousands underneath the rubble who cannot be rescued and who can't even be counted yet. This is barbarism. It's savagery. It's genocide on our TV screens. And I think everybody here will express their disgust, their horror that this can happen. But it is happening. And this government, Rishi Sunak and Starmer, waiting in the wings, all endorse the genocide. When the election comes across the UK, it will effectively be a vote for genocide Sunak or genocide Starmer. You can vote for genocide or genocide. That's the way it's lining up. What do you call a man who says Israel has the right to deny water to the people of Gaza? That's genocide. If these people had been tried in Nuremberg after 1945, every one of them would have been hanged, according to the rules that were then in force. No doubt about it. We marched here past Glasgow University today. The students there, a month or so ago, by a landslide, 80% voted for Hassan Abu Sitta, a Palestinian surgeon who had been up to his ankles in blood in hospitals in Gaza. That man, that epitome of nobility, had worked in many, many war zones. Le Monde called him, he's a surgeon, Le Monde called him the man who fixes broken faces. That's what his life is, doing good. And that Palestinian is now the rector of Glasgow University. Do you want to welcome him? One of his opponents who ran against him was a Labour MSP. I forget the creature's name. He used to work for British Aerospace, BAE. He campaigned for arms industries, and then he went in to stand for election and was crushed. I hope that's a harbinger of the future to come. Friends, these are dark, dark days. My daughter lives in Berlin, and she told me on the May Day march, people were afraid to carry Palestinian flags because every Palestinian flag is attacked by the police in Berlin. Instead, they wore keffiyehs because this is now effectively criminalized. Friends, the Palestinians are the canary in the mine. They're the litmus test. If you stand with Palestinian freedom around this world, you're on the right side of history. And if you stand against it, you're one of the villains, and we will never, ever, ever forget. If you're capable of supporting genocide, you're capable of anything. So don't tell me about your policies on street lighting or some other aspect. If you're capable of genocide, you're too dirty to come to my door and ask for a vote. Go to hell. Friends, the people who are committing mass murder, executions of children, hundreds found dead last week, children with their hands tied behind their backs and shot through the head. Nobody contested that. This is genocide, and all those who support it are to be damned forever. Friends, there's going to be attacks on us. In America, we see a fantastic uprising by students and staff on universities. It is a joy to behold. And I'm old enough to remember the same thing rerun in 1960s and 70s. And you know something? When we did that against the war in Vietnam, we won! We won! And we're going to win again. Because one day for sure, Palestine will be free. How do we know? How do we know? Because when people fight against colonization, the Algerians fought. 1.5 million were killed. The French were great at mass killing. The French lost. America invaded Vietnam, killed 3 million people. B-52 bombing, chemical warfare. They were great at mass killing. They lost. They lost because of people who are able to absorb terrible punishment and still fight for national independence. They will win. That's the lesson of history. It's not what I want to believe, it's what you learn by looking at history. Friends, the horror is too deep for me to take up your time in Gaza. But it didn't happen yesterday or even last year. This genocide has been going on for 70 odd years since the State of Israel was founded. British government complicity is long and dark and horrible. Every time the Palestinians fight for freedom, the British state opposes them. They win in the international court, the British state opposes them. They fight it with armed resistance, the British state opposes them. They win cases, and the British state tries to prevent them getting into the UN, tries to prevent them getting into UNESCO. The British state has a 100% record of opposing Palestinian freedom. But still they resist. They resist by being there. They resist by living. They resist by breathing and saying, we will stay in Palestine because this is our land and it's been stolen from us and we'll get it back. Friends, we want a health service. We want no homeless people sleeping on the streets. That's why we want independence. But we also want a clean foreign policy. We also want a break with endless war. A break from the likes of Cameron. A break from the likes of Johnson. Friends, we have the future in our hands. It can either be bright with independence, and we can break this British state, which is a pustule on the face of humanity. And if they don't break it in London, we can break off a big bit up here. Friends, let's go forward. Freedom.
Now, our next speaker needs no introduction whatsoever. She is somebody that knows the situation in Gaza and the wider near Asia. Put your hands together for Yvonne Ridley of the Alpha Party.
Brothers, sisters, comrades, salam alaikum. While the Israel lobby holds Washington and Westminster under political occupation, it is holding the Palestinians in the grip of a genocide not seen since World War II. The lobby that supports it is a loose coalition of individuals, and they are everywhere. They are in Washington, they are in Westminster, and they are even in Holyrood. It's a coalition of loose individuals and organisations that push US and UK policy in a pro-Israeli direction. In other words, the Israeli lobby owns our political class. They want them, they push them, they pay them to support Israel, no matter what Israel does, no matter how badly Israel behaves. This sort of friendship is unprecedented in history. They're joined at the hip. The Israeli lobby is a very powerful interest group, and it wields massive influence on Western policy in the Middle East. And nowhere is too small. My understanding today is that they've put enormous pressure on the organisers of All Under One Banner, saying, why are you conflating Scottish independence with Palestinian issues? It's obvious. Surely we can all see the parallels. For instance, it's not in Israel's interests for Scotland to have independence. I don't know how many of you have thought this through. I think a few of you might have. The moment Scotland gets independence, and it is coming, our day will come, out will go the nuclear weapons. Once the nuclear weapons have gone, Britain will lose its status on the UN Security Council. Now, Israel routinely violates and ignores UN rules, regulations and sanctions, and is allowed to do so unchallenged because British and American politicians are under its influence and will veto or abstain from any anti-Israel resolutions. That's why presidents talk down Scotland's independence, and others tell us we're too small to go it alone. Israel is not even the size of a South African game park. Imagine if Scotland could wield the same influence globally. But there's another reason why we're all here today, supporting Palestine. And that's because we care about humanity. We don't want the blood of innocents on our hands, but that is exactly what the Tories are doing to us, comrades. Britain is supplying weapons made in Scotland that are being used on children, women, and even babies still in the womb. As a feminist, as a white feminist, I cannot for the life of me understand why my white feminist sisters don't support the Palestinian women. And they don't. Shame on them. Shame on every one of them. Westminster is sending weapons, drones and other arms that are being used by a genocidal force on a civilian population. I've been to Gaza twice now, and I just cannot imagine the situation that what we called the world's largest open-air prison. I just can't imagine what the situation is now, as men, women and children are huddled under canvas, under plastic sheeting, sheltering from million-dollar bombs that are being dropped because Westminster couldn't vote for a ceasefire. They're doing it in our name. Comrades, just as the Palestinians need to be liberated, so do we here in Scotland. The sooner we get independence, the sooner we can turn around to the military-industrial complex and say, nah, not in our name. We say no more political cover to continue the genocide, no more British weapons to use in genocide. no British boots on the ground, and it's coming if we're not careful. And you know what British boots means? It also means Scotsmen and women. So no boots on the ground to aid and abet the genocide. A genocide was committed against 6 million Jews last century, and the truth is everyone in the surrounding towns and villages knew exactly what was happening. Just as we today switch on the TV and can see exactly what is happening. Today, the weight of the guilt of the people who lived around Belsen and Auschwitz is being carried by the German government, which explains some of the crazy decisions that they're doing. We don't even have that excuse in Britain. As I say, we're watching the genocide unfold on our TV. The political elite are seeing exactly the same images we do, but they choose not to act. Well, we can act against them and make them pay in the ballot box. Their cowardice to stand up to their head offices in London will come back to define their legacy. All they had to do 7 months ago, all they had to do was vote for a ceasefire. Scotland should not be part of that evil cabal. We need to stand up firm for Palestine. If we let their freedom and liberty be stolen by the West, we really do have to start asking ourselves, do we want for others what we want for ourselves? Do we deserve independence? If the answer is yes, then don't go to Westminster cap in hand asking for it. Independence is our right. We should be demanding it, and demanding it now. Keep on rising, keep on resistance, and ask yourselves, what price will you all pay for freedom? Thank you. Salam alaikum.
Another great contribution there from Yvonne. Now our next speaker is Isabel Lindsay of Scottish CND, a veteran campaigner for peace and nuclear disarmament. Now, when we talk about, as Yvonne has, the Gazans on the front line, we shouldn't be too comfortable, because we too are actually on the front line, the nuclear front line. The Americans have recently re-established a nuclear presence in Britain, and if that doesn't mean that there's Yankee nuclear missiles on Faz Lane, then I'm a monkey's uncle. I'll eat my bonnet if there isn't. So the issue of nuclear disarmament and the intensification of tensions at an international level is of prime concern to Scotland. We do not want to end up as black marks on a wall. And it's because of people like Isabel Lindsay that the issue of nuclear disarmament has remained at the forefront. So put your hands together and give a big indie welcome for Isabel Lindsay of Scottish CND.
If you want to know what the British state thinks about Scotland, it's always worthwhile looking at history. And in this instance, let's go back to 1958 to 60. And in that period, the Macmillan, the Prime Minister, and the government at that time discovered that the delivery system for their nuclear weapons wouldn't work. So he went cap in hand to President Eisenhower to plead that they would get American missile systems. And what happened? The Americans turned around and said, yeah, okay, but we get the Holy Loch. Now, some decades later, the correspondence between Macmillan and Eisenhower was published. And let me quote a few things from it. Harold Macmillan said, "From a security point of view, a robust population of 3 or 4 Highlanders at Fort William is much more to my taste than the rather mixed population of the cosmopolitan city of Glasgow." So I don't know what was cosmopolitan, whether it was just the Glaswegians were bolshy or whether there were too many Irish in Glasgow. Whatever it was that Macmillan had in mind, he certainly was a bit scared of Glasgow. And I don't know, is there anyone here from Fort William? The description of those robust Highlanders, probably because the only ones that Macmillan had had any dealings with were the Gillies. Now, to be fair to him, he did go on to say it would surely be a mistake to put down what will become a major nuclear target so near to the 3rd largest and most overcrowded city in this country. So to be fair to Macmillan, he recognised the risk. But what happened? The Americans said, hard luck, we want a central belt location, and the British state just caved in like that. And of course, we now have around 200 nuclear bombs on our Clyde, just 30 miles down the river there. And this despite the fact that the world as it is accelerating into the most dangerous spiral situation. So we, with independence, would have the chance, not grandstanding, but seriously, have the opportunity that we could make a significant change in rolling back that spiral. Because an independent Scotland ratifying the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons would be in a position to say, right, within a short space of time, don't believe those people, and some unfortunately in the movement, those people who say, oh, it would need a decade or more, let's be reasonable. The answer is that technically it would not. The 200 bombs could be returned to Burfield where they are manufactured, and within 2 or 3 years, a storage facility could be created. The Trident missiles themselves regularly go back to the US for servicing. Let them keep them. So within a short space of time, Scotland could be an example of a country that has become nuclear weapons free. And as part of the 70 other countries and the other 50 in addition to that who support the treaty, we would be able to say, this is our example, we can show the rest of the world, and in that sense, what a tremendous and important contribution independence could make, not just to the people of Scotland, but to the world.
What a wonderful speech there. And again, you know, it does credit. Isabel has been selflessly involved in the peace movement in Scotland for many decades now. Now, you might be a little bit relieved. We're actually going to have a wee musical break here. The wonderful Kevin Gore is now coming up on stage to regale you with some tunes that you will know, and maybe some that you don't. So put your hands together for Kevin Gore.
Thank you, Bruno. Just get the guitar turned on and we're ready to go. That'll be on then.
turned off the water, the electricity. Bombed all towns and cities, from the river to the sea. Tens of thousands slaughtered, millions displaced. Zionist crimes on humanity bring shame to the human race. Food charities are targeted and the blockade use hunger as a weapon to starve the refugee. And the death toll keeps on rising through famine and disease. Zionist crimes on humanity bring shame to the human race. Call us extremists, anti-Semite, for refusing to be complicit with their genocide. We march in our millions, black, brown, and white, declaring to the world, stand with Palestine. Stand with Palestine. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the sea to the river, Palestine live forever. Free, free, Palestine. Free, free, Palestine. Thank you. Thank you very much. This song that I wrote was a Woody Guthrie version. I just stole the tune from it. There's a Canadian version, an Irish version. This is my attempt at a Scottish version. Well, when I'm walking to Galway, Perth and Kinross, the Clyde Valley, up above me in the skyway, this land was made for you and me. This is your land, this is my land, from the Isle of Arran to Shetland Islands, the southern border to the northern highlands. This land was made for you and me, and the sun was setting on the horizon, and the byways, this great nation. In the distance, the bliss was calling. This land was made for you and me. Oh, this is your land, this is my land, from the Isle of Arran to the Shetland Islands, the southern border to the northern highlands. This land was made for you and me. The sun was rising on a new day dawn, so tens of thousands, people marching, lion rampants, soldiers flying, singing this land was made for you and me. This is your land, this is my land, from the Isle of Arran, Shetland Islands, southern border, northern highlands. This land was made for you and me. Every culture creed and colour. We stand as one. We stand together in a new beginning for all Scotland's children. This land was made for you and me. This is your land. This is my land. And the island, Shetland Islands, the southern Morgan to the northern Highland. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me. Thank you very much. We've got another song to go over. Cool. His song for the Silent Clansman. This is one of his favourites. I wrote this back in 2013. Seems like a lifetime ago. But we'll get there yet. We're not going anywhere. Marching on the street today with my yes badge on. Stranger, he approached me to tell me I was wrong. Said I was a dreamer, but I let him have his say. Say yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of Independence Day. And when that day comes around, coming will for sure. We will have a country. All can be assured. Nation of equality, fairness and respect. And the government we vote for is the government we get on Independence Day. Independence Day. Yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of an Independence Day. I'm not anti-English, Northern Irish or the Welsh. I'm just dreaming of a country that distributes its will. Down to the people have opportunity, break the change and free themselves out on the tops of poverty. On an Independence Day, an Independence Day. Yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of an Independence Day. And I know that I am fortunate, and I know well off I am, compared to those who keep are in the Palestine, just to soon be home, to be free. Independence Day, Independence Day. Yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of an Independence Day. Ikalala pala, Ikalala pala, Ikalala pala, Ikalala pala, Ikalala pala, Ikalala pala. Singing in Glasgow green today was still my yes badge on. Stranger, he approached me to tell me I was wrong. He said I was a dreamer, but I let him have his say. He said, yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of an Independence Day. Right, there's only a couple of performers actually today, so I think we should get a wee fair shout. A couple of songs, if that's all right. as Mick was saying earlier on, we are living in a time where it's quite ironic that people that are oppressed suffer colonisation and genocide. When these people decide to rise up, they're called terrorists. And the people that are committing the genocide, they seem to be on the side of the righteous. There's a song I wrote about freedom fighters, called The Freedom Fighter. First I saw the hooded men and the burning crosses. I was a boy back then. The white supremacists terrorized me. They leashed my father to a poplar tree. Yes, I took the violence, lived by the soul. Was my way until I found my Lord. Malcolm X, Geronimo, I'm a freedom fighter. Nelson Mandela, Yasser Arafat, James Connolly. Wherever there's injustice, you'll always have me. First they trespassed upon my land. In my defense, I took a stand. To place my people in the reservations. They suffered death and disease and starvation. Whenever they treated you like blue coat broke, the 300 braves I led a revolt. Malcolm X, Geronimo, freedom fighter, Nelson Mandela, Yasser Arafat, James Connolly. Wherever there's injustice, there'll always be me. I'm a freedom fighter, don't be confused. Don't call me a terrorist, because I refuse to see my people oppressed and displaced because of their color, their culture, race. I will not be silenced, will not be contained while people suffer for another man's gain. Stood against their occupation, apartheid, their ethnic cleansing, where the olive branch sways in the breeze. I put down my gun and I offered peace. So from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. I'm Malcolm X, Geronimo, I'm a freedom fighter, Nelson Mandela, William Wallace, James Connolly. Wherever there's injustice, with my comrades I rebelled. I was executed in Clonmena jail. For a martyr I became. I lit a fire and I filled the flame. For the people struggle for liberation, free their country from foreign occupation. Malcolm X, Geronimo, Yasser Arafat, Barabbas, Che Guevara, Nelson Mandela, William Wallace, James Connolly. Wherever there's injustice, you'll always have me. You'll always find me. will always be me. Such a pleasure to sing here today. All the best. Thank you.
What a set there, built and reset for Kevin Gore, who's the indie movement's own songsmith. It's him that's writing the songs that will actually be sung for years to come when the independence movement is remembered. Now, our next speaker is from the SNP. It's the MP, she's been MP for, since 2015, and a right bonny fechter for Scotland's cause at Westminster. Put your hands together for Alison Thewlis.
Thank you, good afternoon everybody, and thank you so much for coming out and continuing to show your support for Scottish independence. It is important in these times that we continue to make sure that independence is seen as the very important prospect for our country. It is the only thing that can go to challenge the unfair treatment of our people by the Westminster government. And we need to do everything that we can to take that message to the streets, but not just to the streets. We need to take that message to the doorsteps. We need to be knocking the doors and having the conversations with voters, because we know when this Westminster election comes, whenever Rishi Sunak takes it up his hump to call this election, that we need to win every single possible seat we can in that election. Why? Because if we don't, then they will take it as support for the union. They will take it as support for the status quo. And we know, don't we friends, that the status quo is not good enough for the people of Scotland. The status quo is for attacks on the people of Gaza. It is for children being bombed from above, starving to death, not in our name. The Rwanda plan, state-sponsored people trafficking, not in our name. The bedroom tax, the two-child limit, austerity and the cost of living crisis, not in our name. Nuclear weapons, as we have just heard so well put by Isabel Lindsay, not in our name. And the denial of democracy for the people of Scotland, not allowing us to have our say on the future that we want, not in our name. Friends, our opponents in the unionist press will seek to divide us. They will seek to try and make us look weak. We need more than ever to stand together, to call for independence, to go out there and advocate for independence, to have those conversations in the queue for the bus or waiting at the shops. We need to have those conversations. We need to be bold, we need to be brave, and we need to talk up the importance of independence, because it cannot be right that in this wealthy country that we have, that children are going to bed with empty bellies. It cannot be right that money is being squandered on bombs when our old people can't get a fair state pension, when the WASPy women are being hard done by, when there is not compensation for the people who have suffered in the contaminated blood scandal, for the people who have been the victims of the Post Office Horizon scandal. All of these things happen under Westminster's watch, and we say no more, not in our name. So we need to go out there with that policy vision, sell that to the people, make sure that you register to vote in this election, because that is what they want us not to do. They want to make it hard for us to vote. And we know that even Boris Johnson doesn't manage to get his voter ID this week. So make sure that you do not lose your right to vote. Register to vote. Turn out to vote. Tell them that we are in Scotland and we are not going away. Independence is bigger than any one party and any one person. But if you want to make it happen, you need to vote for it, and you need to get out there and advocate for it. Thank you very much.
Hey!
Very big contribution there to Alison. Our next speaker needs no introduction. It's Kenny McCaskill from the Alpha Party. Put your hands together, give a big Indie welcome.
Good afternoon. Can I start by thanking each and every one of you for turning up and showing your solidarity today. Not just today, but on other demonstrations that have been taking place. Because there was a reason and an excuse for stopping marching during COVID. But we're in turbulent times, and we need to be out and we need to be visible. And yet there's been demotivation and demoralisation within our movement. That is wrong. It is misplaced. Because the time for independence is now. It has never been more needed. We were lied to in 2014. We are now paying a price that even those of us who knew that there would be a price to be paid if we lost never envisaged it would be as grim as this. But no issue makes the case for independence more than the energy situation. Those of us here believe in independence and believe that Scotland should be a nation state, irrespective. Other people require to be persuaded. But the one thing that makes the case is the situation that you have an energy-rich country and you have a people who are in fuel poverty. That makes the case for independence. We should be wealthy, and instead our people are huddling, trying to keep warm. Let's look at the statistics. 36% of our pensioners are in fuel poverty. A quarter of our pensioners are in extreme fuel poverty. It is simply perverse that we are energy rich and yet we're fuel poor. There's an old pal of mine, Willie, says to me, but surely they'll just want to get shot of us at some stage, the same as happening in Ireland. Well, no, they don't, because we're a resource to be enjoyed and to be exploited. And there's actually an article by George Osborne some 2 or 3 years ago who made that clear. As far as the English establishment are concerned, Northern Ireland, who cares? They can't wait for a united Ireland. It gets the north off their hands and they'll shed no tears. Wales, they don't really care either way. Scotland, Osborne was quite clear, that's ours. Why is it ours? Well, they like to enjoy it. If their kids can't get into Oxford or Cambridge, they can come up to St Andrews or Edinburgh or Glasgow. They can come up and enjoy the Edinburgh Festival, and they can even come up and enjoy hunting, shooting, fishing on our hills and our glens. But more importantly than that, we're a resource to be exploited. We're a resource not just in oil and gas, but now in renewable energy. And they know that. Because we are duty bound now to be seeing, going south of the border, 124 billion kilowatts of renewable energy. 124 billion kilowatts. That could power every house in Scotland 12.5 times over. The situation is, though, we're getting no revenue for it. We're getting no work from it. I can go down to Dunbar Harbour and I see turbines now out in the River Forth. There's almost 40 now, and that's just one field. There will be hundreds. And yet Methil lies idle. They're bringing the turbines up from down south or even from across the seas. The work is going elsewhere, and even the jobs are going elsewhere, because I've had constituents sailing out of Montrose who were laid off and replaced by South Asian labour being exploited. Why is that? Because if you're more than 12 miles out, you're out with the maritime limits, and the employment wages, the employment laws and the minimum wage doesn't apply. So we're getting no business, no work, we're being ripped off. That's just the situation with renewable energy. People in East Lothian can see the turbines in the Lammermuirs and they can see the turbines offshore. And yet we are going to get our environment damaged because they want it fast and cheap and they'll put up pylons rather than cabling it. And yet we can't afford to heat our homes. It's a replication of what happened with oil. Norway discovered oil and got immensely rich. We discovered oil, as Jim Siller said, and have seen an industrial desert made. 40 years ago, the big fight was the miners' strike. But now in oil and gas, the big fight is Grangemouth Refinery. We have to make a stand for that. I grew up just along the road from it.
And as Mick McGahey said about the miners' strike, this isn't just about the current generation. And believe you me, it's a young workforce there. If they lose their jobs, then they'll have to go south or probably abroad. This is about training future generations. We already have a skills gap in Scotland. And yet I knew folk at school that went and got a training in what was then BPICI. We will lose not just current jobs, we'll lose necessary skills. And yet what are we seeing? A UK government that's selling us out. The ethylene plant has been shut. At the same time, the UK government is giving €600 million to INEOS to open a brand new plant in Antwerp. Scottish workers are being made redundant. Belgian workers are being supported on the money that the UK government's getting from North Sea oil that comes ashore up north east and comes in the Forties pipeline down to Grangemouth. That's why Grangemouth is our fight. We've got to ensure that we're not deindustrialised. The knock-on effect would be significant. It's vital for the fuelling not just of our cars but of our industry. It's vital for the fuelling of our aviation sector. It's for that reason that we have to stand by Grangemouth. Coming down on the march, I was listening to the proclaimers, singing cap in hand. We boast, then we cower. We fight for a wee bit. No, at the end of the day, this belongs to us. It's our oil. It should be refined here. It cannot be Grangemouth no more. What it must be Union no more. For that we need a strategy, we need our movement back together, and we need to be pushing for independence, not running from it or hiding from it. Thank you.
Amen to that. Grangemouth must not close. We must basically get out into the streets in defence of Grangemouth, because we know what will happen to the people of Grangemouth in that entire region. It will be reduced like so many other places throughout Scotland, through the mining belts, through the industrial towns, have actually been reduced. And that's all that the Britnat neoliberal economic system can actually give us. So thank Kenny for that. I ask people to actually get up on your hind legs about Grangemouth, because it is a fundamental issue for Scotland. Now our next speaker is somebody who is a great friend and supporter of all under one banner. It's probably fair to say that we could not conduct the work at the same level without the support that's actually given from the Scottish Independence Foundation. So I ask you to put your hands together and give a huge ovation for Ian Grant from the Scottish Independence Foundation.
Thank you. I generally get up on the stage to remind folk that rallies cost money, and that SIF, the Scottish Independence Foundation, generally supplies the money for these rallies. And that's still the case. And so I would ask you to perhaps wander over to the SIF stall, which is just over in that direction, and perhaps make a wee contribution. All these little things help, and we've supported a whole series of things beyond the rallies. We've supported Leslie Riddoch's films, we've supported the new IAP and various things, the Dunfermline Group's films. We've done all that over the last few months, and so I'd ask you to help. Just over the last few weeks, I just thought to myself, you know, with these walks, I thought when I got out of bed this morning, what's the point? With politicians like we have in Scotland, with a few exceptions, such as the one we've just heard, what chance have we of regaining our independence? And I'm still not sure about the answer. I can't help thinking that the Scottish Government, after 10 years post-IndyRef, still have no workable plan for getting us to independence. You know, go out and persuade the people of the case until the polls reach 60%. Quite frankly, not good enough. Why would folk vote for independence if they didn't know how it was going to be achieved, what the route to independence was? This has to be clarified. How can we have confidence in our leaders who don't have a clear prospectus and don't have a clear route for getting us to independence? And I think more than anything else, what failed us in 2014 was lack of confidence of the Scottish people in the leaders of the independence movement. So, what do we have to do? I think, first of all, the importance of independence has to be stressed when talking, just as we were hearing from Kenny there, when talking about all important issues in Scotland, whether it's Grangemouth, whether it's heating your home, whether it's dealing with poverty in the community, whether it's providing houses, especially in rural areas, dealing with job insecurity, the lack of transport infrastructure, all these things are tied up with the colonial status of Scotland within the United Kingdom. We need full control to address all these issues, as we here know. But we have to talk about independence not in isolation from everything else, but as a part of everything else. Secondly, as I've said, we have to have a viable route to independence. It's not going to be consensual. It's going to be a fight, a struggle. And we're going to have to take it and not wait for it. We have to take the population with us, and it's not going to be a referendum, so it's going to have to be a majority, probably the list at a Scottish election. We've got to be prepared when we fight that election. We need a prospectus that demonstrates the opportunities of independence and actually addresses the obstacles. In other words, currency and all these associated things. I think also we need an expert-led business plan for the transition. We need to get folk who have got expertise, whether it's in economics, whether it's in business, whether it's in agriculture, whatever, who can help us to produce this plan. One thing we also need is a national convention to draw in representatives from all over Scotland, from civic organisations across Scotland. We have to entice people like the STUC and other civic organisations to join us. The Independence Forum, of which I'm involved, is planning for one on St Andrew's Day. That may seem rather late in the day, but on the other hand, there's probably going to have been an election before then, and the situation will be rather clearer where we are at that time. But we would like groups from all regions of Scotland. We've got good representation from the Highlands and Islands, from the North East, from Fife, and also from Edinburgh and Lothians, but we need people to get in touch with us from the west of Scotland. So go to the website independenceforum.scot. We must rebuild this movement and not blindly, I think, follow the politicians who so far have failed us. Thank you.
Somebody who is fresh-faced is our next speaker, and that is Fiona Nelson from the Independence for Scotland Party.
Hi, can you hear us? That's fine. Right, okay. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster of a week, but anyway, we're not here to talk about that today. We're here as a movement, and it's a great chance for us all to get together, all under one banner. Again, have I'd like to say thanks to them, organising, stewards. So a big round of applause, please, for all under one banner. They've done a really good job. Okay? But it actually gives us a little chance to get together, see where we are, where we're going, and take things forward. So, what am I here to talk about today? Well, this is my first time speaking, and I can just tell you I'm like that, so I do apologise. But something's got me really riled up, and I'm angry. So, what I'm here to talk about today is a really clear, it's a very present danger to Scottish independence.
And ISP have chosen to do this as a party because we feel that not enough people understand or know about what I'm about to talk about, and it's free ports. And I want to explain to you why. Why is this currently the biggest threat to Scottish independence? Well, to understand the future, we sometimes have to look back to the past, okay? And see how things have been done before. And the habits of the colonists, they don't really change. They use the same tactics now as they did before. When the British Empire was expanding, they always used trading companies as the vanguard. The most infamous of these was the East India Trading Company. These companies took over large areas of land, they set up trading posts, brought in soldiers, ran them according to their own rules as opposed to the rules of the country they were in. They occupied strategic places like ports. They exploited the natural resources of the country, paid the locals a pittance to work the mines, to pick the cotton, to pick the tobacco. It goes on. And they made vast profit from all this, and they haven't paid it back. Well, guess what? That is precisely what free ports are. Free ports are going to be taking over vast areas of land of Scotland. The fourth port is 75 kilometres. Cromarty and Firth, 45 kilometres. Another layer has been added to this as well, and they are called, wait for it, Special Enterprise Zones. Well, together, these areas cover most of the industrial and strategic national assets of Scotland. These zones will be run by private business consortia as tax havens. They won't pay local income tax, and they won't be subject to the same rules. Employment rights, health and safety, planning. Minimum wage, national insurance, forget it. Out of these places, our newest and probably one of our most important industries is going to be run, renewable energy. And the contracts attached to these places are anything from 10 to 25 years. If you're a business outside of one of these zones, tough. You'll be priced out by having to pay minimum wages and national insurance and income tax. If you're a cash-strapped council, tough. You're going to have a big hole knocked in your budget by SEZs using resources that they're not paying for. That's before we even get on to what is encircled in these zones. Let's name a few places. Grangemouth, Methil, Rosyth, Leith, Edinburgh Airport, Edinburgh City, the oil and gas facilities of Forth and Cromarty and Firth. There's more. I could name more, but we don't have all day, so I'm moving on. But this is Scotland's future. All our major ports, our airports, our capital city, our oil refinery, our deep docks, our oil and gas facilities, our renewable energy facilities and energy resources will be under the control of private consortia, operating to their own set of rules in breach of the laws of Scotland. And just to put the lid on it, Jim Ratcliffe Lavinius has reapplied for fracking licences. Make of that what you will. Is this freedom? Is this the independence we want? No, and we didn't vote for it. Like North Sea Oil and Gas, Westminster handed over this land to the companies under the auspices of the Crown. This is the UK's post-colonial gift to us, and it's a poisoned one. We will be exchanging one kind of colonialism for another. Westminster for the East India Company. In addition to everything else, these zones will prevent us from rejoining Europe because they don't follow EU regulations. Now, there is some good news. What they have done has been challenged. Salvo sent a letter of notice to all these consortia, warning them that Scotland's lands and its resources do not belong to the monarch, but to the people. That has opened the door to the possibility of a legal challenge later under the Scottish Constitution. But all of us need to be going back to our parties, our organisations and raising the roof. Now, I'm just going to end here, but I want to finish with a quote from Anatole France, who once said, "To accomplish great things, we must not only act, but also dream. Not only plan, but also believe." Do we believe in independence? Yes. We believe in it. Do we dream of independence? Yes. Okay, now it's time we act for independence. Yes. Let's get Freeport stopped. Thank you.
Great stuff. Now, before we go on to our second musical interlude from the Dead Thatchers, evocative name, thank goodness she's still dead. You know, people check on a regular basis. We've actually got a very special moment here, a historic moment. We're actually going to hear from the Silent Klansman. Now, I've never actually heard him talk. So, put your hands together for the Silent Klansman. He's only going to be on for a couple of seconds.
Hello everybody. Yes, I do speak. Anyway, just very quickly, unfortunately, a lot of you know that I live away up in the Highlands and the transport and all that isn't as great as it is down here in the Central Belt. So I'm having to shoot off early. But what I would like to say is, before I go, what a bonny sight everybody was coming into the Glasgow Green today and on the march. You'll be pleased to know that there were no unionists out in opposition today. But saying that, I did go down to Manky Jacket's stall in Argyle Street and we had a wee bit of banter. I'll put the video up on the Silent Klansman page later. But there was a street entertainer next to him who was much better than his Holocaust-denying patter. I hate him, that man, and I don't hate anybody. So in the meantime, thank you very much everybody for coming down. Keep a brave heart on independence, keep marching, keep talking, but mostly, let's get some action. All the best. God bless you all.
Palestina, tanah yang terluka. Derasnya darah mengalir, menambah duka. Tapi tak pernah padam api semangat kalian. Kau tetap berjuang demi kemerdekaan. Palestina, tanah yang tercinta. Kau punya sejarah yang suci mulia. Tapi kini kau dirampas dan dijajah oleh musuh yang zalim dan serakah. Palestina, kami bersamamu. Palestina, kami cintaimu. Kami dukung perjuanganmu. Palestina, tanah yang terpilih. Kau tempat lahirnya para nabi dan rasul. Tapi kini kau disiksa dan diperangi oleh musuh yang kejam dan tak punya hati. Palestina, tanah yang terpilih. Kau tempat lahirnya para nabi dan rasul. Tapi kini kau disiksa dan diperangi yang tak